interesting situation. I mean, they're going through something nobody else could understand.
Right.
So, I mean, you got your, that's something.
See, I got the T-shirt to prove I went through it.
You did do it. Is that if I use a chair too, or something?
Oh yeah, I got some more. I'm sorry.
If you go, maybe we'll have
I got
it.
a short one and I got a tall one like that one. So
Maybe I'll take a tall one and then
All right.
I'm gonna like do a thing where I film me. We got her here. Say, well, let me get this. Say and spell your name for me.
sure.
That's the hard question. That's the, even though I know who you are. We're filming. Cool. Yes, sir. Say and spell your name.
So my name is Hank Muntzer, and it's H-A-N-K. My last name Muntzer is M-U-N-T-Z-E-R.
Muntzer.
Correct.
Got to say that right. And you're a Dillon resident. Obviously, you've been here. What? How long have you been in Dillon?
Well, I moved back to Montana in '99. I went to high school in Dillon. I was over in Port Angeles, Washington for about 10 years. This is kind of home for me. Between Montana, a couple, a few places in Wyoming and in Idaho, I've kind of made a big circle. So this is kind of home for me. I've been pretty much in the same area. But when I was in Washington for 10 years, I did a lot of things back there. I had a large company back there. I did a lot of patents and stuff. A lot of people may know some of the things I've done. I build batteries that last forever, never go bad. I built devices for automobiles that increase fuel mileage, eliminate the pollution, the lowest emissions ever recorded. So there's a lot of things I've done, but coming back to Montana, I want to raise my family and get away from the big city.
Right.
So I came back here, and my life has kind of been fairly interesting, and I guess I would say it all started about time Trump started running for office. I knew there was a lot at play in our country. I knew that we have a corrupt system, been fighting the corruption for a very long time, at least trying to expose it, show people,
Right.
There's a lot of these things that are set up by the feds, by the CIA, all in order to get people to fight amongst themselves. There's good people. I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're even a liberal. There's good people out there, but they use certain organizations, certain things, whether it's the Green Movement or whatever, to manipulate people's minds to gain control. If you would look at me, you'd see I'd be the most environmentally friendly person in the world, but yet I'm not an environmentalist. You know what I'm saying? I believe
Well, do you think that name
stewardship-
environmentalist is something that is used to make people seem wrong?
Correct.
Because
and
you created an engine or something, or you said where that has less.
reduces
What's wrong
the
with
emissions.
like names? You know what I mean? People say like liberal used to mean something. Conservative is now becoming a bad.
I like to use a different word. Instead of looking at environment, being an environmentalist, I considered stewardship.
There you go.
I mean, and it's not because it started off to be a bad thing. I believe people infiltrate certain organizations and things and they corrupt them. I mean, obviously the Democratic Party was a great party at one time. I mean, you had people like John F. Kennedy who tried to expose the fraud. And George Walker Bush, who was in charge of the CIA, was behind the assassination of him. I mean, people may not agree with that, but the facts will come out. Once we unlock the Kennedy files, people understand how we've been played. And so what they want us to be divided. As long as we're divided, they take control. I mean, it's just how they operate. Infiltration, of every organization, whether it's a good organization, bad it doesn't matter. They infiltrate it, they use it as a pawn, either throw people under the bus or get people in a certain movement and then disperse them. So we can never organize off principles that are good. And that's always been the biggest agenda.
So obviously these are things you believe in and you see it and again you think it's going to be exposed. I mean, people can tell by looking at your business outside.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit as to why I did this building. I believe Q is a military operation. Anons are people like you and me that interpret the Q post. And people have a lot of different beliefs. Well, Q said this, Q said that. So where did it say that? Did you ever go to the Q post and see what Q actually said? I mean, recognize what they're telling us. And Q is an operation, one, to allow us to do decodes. And in the process of doing decodes, we were able to see how the deep state or the people that were manipulating us were telling us what they were doing the whole time.
Right.
And so we obviously started to understand how they talk. And in the process, we understand how the Q posts were talking to us, kind of telling us, there's an operation in play. We cannot reveal what the operation is because as long as there's an ongoing investigation, it would, it would not be a correct thing to do. It would be a violation of law. So they point us towards different things. So we do our own research, and we're told to think for ourselves, be as individuals, And
You once said, and I remember, I think you once said you weren't like political, really. You didn't care Republican, Democrat, whatever.
no, I
But
believe
something
in,
changed in you, or what
yeah.
basically
So I believe in
changed?
right and wrong, and
Right.
I guess for me, I've always voted for a third party. People say, why don't you vote Republican? You're throwing your vote away. I said, well, we're voting for the lesser of the two evils. We need to start voting on principles. Who represents your values? And so when Trump stepped up to the plate, he did something outside the norm. He knew that he couldn't run as a independent party or a third party because it wouldn't work. He knew he had to get the majority of the votes in order to make that happen. And I really believe that Trump won by a landslide. Not only did he win, but I believe he won pretty much almost 50 states, probably 49 once the truth comes out, once we expose the fraud.
This whole, and that's kind of comes down to it. You mentioned Trump. You believe he won. You're one of these people. I mean, or there are many people in this country that believe. Why is it you believe he won, even though people say they've had investigations, they've had even Republicans in certain states like Michigan and Arizona said they looked at their voting and they didn't find anything major wrong with it. What do you think of that when they say that?
Well, there's a lot of cover. The question comes down to, you got to understand there's been exposures many different times on many different issues in regards to election fraud. It's not just one issue. Mm-hmm. And obviously we're still going through it where that's happening. Mm-hmm. And it's not a question of if it happened, we know it's happened. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think there's anyone left or right that doesn't believe there is an election fraud. The question is, was it enough to swing the vote? And I would say absolutely. And I mean, all you have to do is watch a movie called, 10,000 Mules. That's when they basically expose it. And if you look in there, you'll see that there's a program they use. It's called Project Prism, which is a classified program from the NSA. Mm-hmm. And basically, they were taking drop boxes, following people's phones where they went and how, at times they dropped off because you only vote once. Mm-hmm. And by using that alone, we could show that the election was stolen. So it's not if it happened. And then you also have the Dominion machines, and you'll see that Dominion actually change the votes and stuff through their programs and stuff, and they've actually demonstrated now how it's easily done before the courts. And so, I mean, all the forensic needs to be done on that, but they've been preventing that from happening. And I really believe not only the NSA has that information, but as well as the Department of Defense.
And when people, obviously the Dominion situation, there were many places, news organizations, people that said this and then have reversed it and they were sued. What do you think of all that when they've said...
And that's a typical thing. They try to go after them for defamation. They're saying they're trying to destroy their company's reputation because they've done certain things. But the issue is we've never been able to do the full forensics. That's what's been prevented from happening.
Do you think it's that something is preventing the country from investigating this stuff? Because there are, I would say this, I think there are a lot of people that don't believe there was fraud. They've looked into it, they don't believe it is, and it's been, we're coming on 4 years and nobody has at least come out with something that said this is an actual fraud is going on. Because if there was, it would change, wouldn't it? Would there be prosecutions?
I think the real issue is, and this is why we're going through this is why it's taken so long for Trump to come back. I mean, in a military operation, it's necessary to expose the fraud. We can't put the military in harm's way until the people wake up. And we know we have to hit the 80% level. People understand what's really going on. And then at that point, the military can step in, do what they need to do to take our country back. But they got to demonstrate the fraud. Otherwise, they'll think Trump's in charge. They'll think Biden's in charge. You see what happens, and we end up in a civil war. We can't have a huge loss of life. It's about exposure. And it's just like what they're doing in my case. They're saying I'm an insurrectionist. They say that I'm here to, take over the Capitol or whatever they want to say, I've been just the opposite of that. I'm keeping the patriots under control. People come in here all the time, so we can't have civil unrest. That's how you fall into the deep state's hands. That's how they create the problem. That's how they they use a situation to create more laws that encumber all of us, take away our rights, And I just tell people, I said, we're not living under the Constitution. We're living under British rule. Laws for thee, but not for me. I said, that's what the bar is. It's nothing more than a British accreditation registry. I mean, we have judges, we have attorneys, we have all these people throwing everyone under the bus to keep an agenda going. And in my case, I've been through 6 judges. I've been through 3 attorneys.
Wow.
And so, over and over again, I'm exposing them one by one. So it doesn't matter if I win my case or lose my case. It's a matter of exposure. It's a matter of principles. It's a matter of truth. I know in my case, they have nothing against me, nothing. The only thing in my case that they could try to use against me is my words on Facebook. And they would say, like, I'm trying to overthrow a government. As the Constitution says, we can get rid of a tyrannical government. That's not an issue. The issue is, how do we expose them? How do we show that this is actually occurring? And how do we expose the judges that are ruling incorrectly? I had a gentleman, so I offered to pay for people to go to D.C. on January 6th. I got 9 people there, and one was a 10-year-old kid that was with us as well. So there was men, women, and children at the ellipse. At that point, when I went to the ellipse, I had no idea that we were going to the Capitol. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know where the Capitol was. I mean, if I was in D.C. and was so young that I don't remember it with my dad, but I'd have to ask him, because I remember going to some museums and stuff, but I was probably under 10. So I had no idea where I was. And then Trump told us after the speech, he said, go over to the Capitol peacefully, and we did. We marched down Pennsylvania. There was over 2 million people there. It was the biggest group of people I've ever seen. And so we get there, and there's people all around the Capitol. I mean, there's some grass here, but I didn't even know there was grass there when we got there, because they're all the way in the street at this point. I get there, just a little bit before 2:45. The reason why I know it's 2:45 is we looked at the evidence for when I actually entered the doors of the Capitol. I was probably 5 to 8 minutes before that when I actually got there.
Right.
And so I'm actually restepping my timelines, because I think it's important. It shows a lot. We also know that when I entered the building, we know that the Congress had re-adjourned. See, they're trying to get me for what they call the 1512 count, which is interrupting Congress.
Okay.
So that has a 20-year felony conviction. And there's also a 310 count that also is another felony, which none of these things should even be in my case. But obviously, they painted with a wide brush for everyone that was there on January 6th. So I had 5 charges painted against me. The rest are misdemeanors. They hear about 6 months ago, they added one more, a 6th charge, which is kind of like picketing, which I think is kind of funny, because I didn't have any signs, I didn't picket, didn't do nothing. And I have a very unique case, because not only was I there was another gentleman with me called Boyd Camper. He actually went to the Capitol behind me. I didn't know he was there. We got broken up before we got to where the inaugural stage was. So to kind of restep where I was and what happened, we kind of went down, it looked like maybe a sidewalk walkway. And the reason I know it because I saw it later, what I'm saying, after I left the Capitol.
They started new, your so yeah, go ahead, go for where you were going. You got to the Capitol.
So I got to. You want me to go to the beginning? So I
no,
got
just
to the
where you're at. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I went to the Capitol, and I believe we were walking along the walkway that goes up to the stairway to the Capitol and to the inaugural stage. Only reason I know that was the path we were on is because afterwards I could restep my path and know that that's where I came. So I don't remember being on a sidewalk. I didn't really even know that there was really grass around the whole place, because there was that many people there. But I did see something I thought was odd. And I gotta recount that, because to the left of me, when we were heading up to the stairway, I saw 2 guys putting on helmet and goggles, and I thought that was really odd, with face masks, like gas masks and stuff. And I thought, well, that's really odd, but it didn't register in my brain. So as I get closer to the stairway, several women come down, and they said the Capitol Police were pepper spraying them and all that, and I'm like, what? And so, like a bunch of patriots, we're like, we gotta go see what's going on. So we started to go up the stairway to the left, couldn't. Then the stairway to the right, we could get up there, and that goes to the inaugural stage. So I get up around the corner, and there's this big scaffolding. So I get around the corner there, I run into a bunch of these guys with helmet and goggles pushing against the police, and they go, come in behind us. So I kind of get behind them just a little bit. Next thing you know, they just start pepper spraying me. And I'm like, I must be like 8 or 10 feet away from where the guards are. And I'm getting pepper sprayed, and I'm standing back going, what is happening here? I couldn't even figure out what was going on in my mind. So I got back and I got under the scaffolding and trying to assess it. My phone's going dead, so I make a few, videos, and that was what I did. So I have basically 3 videos of when I was there at the Capitol today. I wish I could have videoed the whole thing. The guy, Boyd, who was also there, we got broken up at this point when we got to that area, and he had a GoPro on the whole time.
Huh.
So I'm looking at what's going on, and and I remember the women saying that they were shooting tear gas, and I hear these booms in the background, but at that point I didn't recognize what it was, but as soon as she said that, that made perfect sense. So then when I got up there, I could actually see that happening. So at first I didn't understand what was going on, and I'll circle back to that because this is important, not only in my case, but everyone from January 6th. Because we were all assaulted, but I didn't understand what was occurring because at that point I was just trying to take in all the information.
Right.
So I'm looking up at the scaffolding because I get behind this curtain away from where they could pepper spray me. I get behind this curtain that's on the scaffolding, and I'm looking up, and there's, there must be, it seemed like 400 or 500 people on the scaffolding. I thought it was going to collapse on my head. And so I'm thinking, man, I get another vantage point, and I'm not going to go through any police lines. I mean, I've even said that people broke through police lines as if that had to do with me. I never broke through any police lines, nor would I do something like that. I know there's people that probably did. Did I actually see anyone break through a police line? No, I did not. Not when I was there. I saw it afterwards on TV and stuff like that. Does that make a little more sense?
Yes.
So when I got back to our room, and so at that point I decided I need to get a better view. So I decided I would hop over this little footwall. I was like 5 to 6 foot tall. And the bleachers go up, from the inaugural station. There's other people up there, so I'm not breaking through no police line. I decided, well, I'm just going to get up on these bleachers and get a view of it. So I get up there on the bleachers, and there's tear gas coming. We're choking on it, and people are saying, we stormed the Capitol. And I said, so I get my phone out, and I said, we just stormed the Capitol, made it through tear gas and pepper spray. And I mean, that doesn't mean you're taking over the Capitol. I mean, I storm into places. When I go to D.C., I'm going to storm into the courtroom. It means I have something to say. It doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong, but see, this is what lawyers do. They take your words out of context.
But you went into, you said stormed in, but you went in, you were going in for a purpose. You did want to go in. You don't believe you were.
So no, I only purpose I have was to make my voice known.
Oh.
So that's the only purpose I had. Had not any idea I'd be going to the Capitol. And really, the reason why I was there is to keep Congress from committing treason, which they did anyways. So once the truth is told and the evidence for the election fraud's there, and January 6th becomes a cover, you're going to look back in history that January 6th is going to be our new 4th of July. That's when the people stood up and said, no, we are not going to put up with this no more. Now, I don't agree with people assaulting officers if that's what they did. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with people pushing through police lines and breaking down barricades. I mean, I'm just not into that, you know what I'm saying? But you got to ask the second question. These were peaceful protesters that were standing there, and as we recount the events and we watch the Capitol Police shooting people that were doing nothing, shooting tear gas in the crowd that were just standing there, making their voice known, they riled up the crowd. And I saw that on the videos. We're going through all that evidence as to what was occurring at that point. Because I wasn't there. I didn't see that part. Where I was at the Capitol was very peaceful in one sense. I didn't see anyone break through police lines. I didn't see anyone get hurt, except for maybe us that were in the Capitol that were assaulted.
I was going to say, how did you get into the Capitol?
So I was standing
you
up
didn't
on
break through a line, you're saying?
No, and I
Okay.
have everything on my on YouTube. It's
Right.
under Hank Muntzer.
Okay.
You can see my videos, and I will provide that to you as well.
Thank you.
But basically, I just said we just stormed the Capitol, made it through tear gas and pepper spray, and I said patriots everywhere. And then I turn the recording off. I get to the top of the bleachers. I'm standing up there. We're choking on tear gas, and next thing you know, they swing the door open to the Capitol, and you'll see the line of people just stand. They're peacefully just standing in line. I mean, there wasn't people everywhere. They were actually in lines like this. It's like it was just they were just standing there, and next thing you know, they opened the doors. And then somebody waved us in. I go, oh, we're going into the Capitol. So I was up on the top of the bleachers. People started going in. There must have been, 300-400 people, maybe more, maybe 1,000. It seemed like there was a lot of people in there. It seemed like there was at least 1,000 people in that building. When you see my videos, it was just completely packed. So anyhow, we walked past guards. Nobody told us to leave. No one said you're not supposed to be in here. We walked in there and we said our house, just made our statements known. That's what people were saying. And so I go into the first chamber, which is like a big rotunda. There is a rotunda-like area to the right of where I went. I didn't go in there, but I kind of looked in that area, and it's like just a big round room. And to the left, as soon as I entered, I went to the left, and this is the doorway that's facing the Washamana. I don't know where it's front or back, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how you would look at that. But anyhow, it was the one facing, that's the door I went in. And so then I worked my way to the left, because everyone's heading that way too, so we went through this little, I call it a little island type thing with some.
Just making sure we're still going. Go ahead.
So it looked like an island that I was walking around, you know, a circle area.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it kind of opens up into a square area, and there's a big flag in the background. That's what I can remember. So as soon as I get around the corner there in the square room, I kind of come around the corner, and here's once again some guys with helmet and goggles, you know, pushing against guards. And then next thing you know, I'm standing there, and then they basically empty a whole thing of pepper spray in my face. This is 2 times I was pepper sprayed.
Who was it that was doing this to you? Or
This was the Capitol Police.
Police, okay.
And I'm a ways back. I'm like, you know, I'm probably 8 or 10 foot back, you know. I mean, I'm not really close, but I eventually worked my way up to the, I shouldn't say work my way up to the guards, but I was in front of the guards when they were pushing me out of the building. So basically I go back to the main rotunda area, and next thing you know, they started bringing reinforcements in, and the doorway that we came in, we couldn't get out of, they blocked. And there was people pushing against the guards there. As a matter of fact, they were kind of frustrated because they couldn't get out of the building, and they were pushing against them really hard. And I said, don't push them, you're going to push them down the stairs. So, I mean, at this point, we're cornered, we're entrapped. And I want to say the word entrap because a lot of times, you know, entrap means you did something wrong and they entrapped you. So it's not.
You had no escape route.
We had no escape route. So the word I should be using, so it's very clear so everyone understands, it's not entrapment, it's a trap. We walked into a trap. And that's how I looked at the whole situation. So people felt they were trapped in there, they were trying to push against the guards. I told them not to push, you know, you're going to push them down the stairway. So I'm backing off. I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this building. There's another door on the opposite side. Next thing you know, we have guards coming in. They're pushing against us. I had this big, tall, black guy, and there's this short, when we're still trying to find the video on this, but this big black guy kept hitting me with his baton, poking me, you know. Mm-hmm. And I haven't identified who that person was, and he kept poking me. I said, we can't get out of the building. They got the doors blocked. We can't get out of here. I said, you need to get this door open up so we can get out of the building. I said, this is crazy. It's like a mosh pit. There's women falling down behind me, other people picking them up off the ground, and I'm on the front line against the guards. And I'm trying to hold on to my backpack because it's trying to fall off, you know, and people are pulling and shoving. It was just a huge, terrible situation, and I'll give you the videos for it. And so then I knew I was struck when I was trying to leave the building, and until I reviewed the tapes and the evidence that they have against me, and it was funny because the evidence that they had, they said that I was trying to take a baton from a guard, and I'm like, take a baton from, I didn't even know what they were talking about in the discovery. Yeah. And so when I reviewed the video, I remember being somebody striking at me, but I didn't know what it was. Well, I go back and review the video. Here I am trying to get out of the building. The people start pushing back in, and a guard literally comes over and tries to strike me over the head. And I got a scar on the side of my face. You can see I've been beat up and pulverized by, you know, everything that was going on that day. I'm just like, I just wanted out of there at that point, you know. This was just.
You feel you weren't attacking or trying to create a
No, I
did you ever threaten anybody? Did you ever punch anybody or a guard or somebody?
No.
Or make a verbal threat?
And you got to understand, no, I wouldn't do that. Okay. I'm the guy that would take the abuse. However, I'm also the guy too that, you know, if I saw someone getting beaten up in an alley, I'd go and protect them. I don't care if it's a gang of 20 people. I'd throw myself in there and do it. I see an officer being beaten up. I'll jump in there and help him. But on the other side of the fence, if some officer is beating the hell out of somebody, I'll jump in there and take his ass out. See, I'm a guy that would protect you no matter what. Mm-hmm. I believe that nobody, whether they have a badge or a gun, has a right to assault people, period. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously, you know, if there's a threat and they got to defend because of a certain situation, that's fine. But that's not how things occurred.
Do you think in that situation you guys were being assaulted by authority?
In my case, absolutely. In other cases, absolutely. Each case needs to be judged on its own merits because I believe there's provocateurs there. I believe there's people that actually did, you know, create problems. But the question is, who started it and why? Those are the questions that really need to be asked, and everyone needs to stand on what they did that day, you know what I'm saying? Whether they were actually part of a problem or whether they were trying to help. I mean, the narrative that came out from the news is 3 officers died. We come to find out that isn't true. But there was January 6ers that died, but that was never reported on. We have videos of one lady being beaten to death. She's laying on the ground, they're still beating on her. That's just police brutality, plain and simple. I mean, person is in a point they can't do anymore. They're on the ground and you're still swinging a club at them and that person dies. So I mean, the narrative needs to change. People need to understand what really occurred that day, and I think a lot of people believe the news, and that was the biggest problem, you know? The news, I believe, is the biggest enemy of the people. And I'm not saying every news agency, but I mean news in general, because I refer to it as a mockingbird media, and I believe a lot of the news agencies get their talking points from the CIA. 4 o'clock every morning, they'll say the same thing, because that's how they brainwash people. If all the news is saying the same thing, you automatically go along with it. And it becomes a really hard problem, and we become divided over it because we think the narrative's true because everyone's saying the same thing.
Certainly if news is, like you're saying, if it's trying to manipulate people, that could influence people, that's a conspiracy that way. Could it, but you obviously get information from somewhere. You mentioned Q. Do you ever think you could be being manipulated by something else too? Not just news, but other, where do you get your information?
I do my own research and try to put the facts together best I can. Doesn't mean I always get it right. I believe the hardest part in a person's life is unlearning the things you think are true. That is the hardest part. When you realize that 89% of your life is a complete lie and only 11% of everything you're told is true, it's going to be very hard to find the information and to figure out what's really going on. I mean, it's just like right now, the whole thing with January 6th and the pipe bombing. Now they're finding out that the feds were involved in it. This whole thing's going to blow up. It was all the distraction to blame it on Trump supporters. I mean, this is how our CIA has operated for a very long time, including the feds. It's necessary to get ahead of the news cycle. That's why when we were there January 6th, we posted all our videos, what happened, because, you know, we wanted people to know. Well, they took all our videos down, so we couldn't get ahead of the news cycle. All you had was the mainstream media reporting on these things. And we had reporters, so basically, after I finally got pushed out of the building, I went around the back side of the building. I don't know if you call it back or front, but it's the opposite side of the Washington Monument. I went outside, and at that point I had a bunch of pepper spray, and people are like, you need to get this off, either pouring water. And I didn't even realize that it really bothered me until they poured water, and I could feel it burn. But at that point, I think the adrenaline kicked in, you know. I was like, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. And you're in this moment. I mean, there was a lot of energy there. I do not regret being there. I would absolutely want to be there again. That's how monumental that day was. I mean, it was the greatest time, I believe, to be alive. And I think in a matter of time, the truth is going to come out, and people are going to recognize this as the day the American people stood up and said, we're not going to take this no more. You need to be fair, you need to be honest. And in my life, you know, I don't care about outcomes, never have. What I care about is the truth, bottom line. And I always say, truth has no enemies and it has no friends.
It does. You mentioned, actually answered one of the questions I was going to say. If you did regret this at all, because you're facing, I mean, you're facing some serious charges, some possible.
Yeah, and I'm not going to roll over. I'm not going to plea bargain. Although I thought about it the other night, and it just came to my head. I said, you know, I said, no, I can't say I wouldn't plea bargain. I would plea bargain on one condition. You release every January 6er, and you consider them patriots. And I get to unlock Isaac Sturgeon, who's a friend of mine I got to know. I didn't know him very well until after I didn't even know he was there. I go unlock prison doors for him, and you can put me behind bars the rest of my life. I said, I will do that.
That's a big.
But that's the only way I would plea bargain.
You would take, but you would serve the time. I mean, you would go for it.
Yeah, so everyone else
It
could be
sounds
free.
like you, I mean, this sounds like you have no regrets about what happened. You believe you are 100% justified, and that
Right.
this is a new July 4th.
And I didn't know that, you know, they're saying that, you know, you had to know that there was barricades there. I saw no barricades. I saw no signs. I saw no one ever telling me I couldn't be there. I mean, I go into my capital all the time. We've had different rallies where we went down there to Trump things. And I go in and talk to our congressmen and stuff, and I've been in there all the time. I mean, there's no clue that you're not supposed to be in a particular place, and that's the assumptions that they make. I
But
mean,
there were some people, and you said you saw videos, and some of them were posted by people who were there, of breaking glass,
Yeah,
using
so-
shields and
so-
going in. Do you think there was resistance? Like there were people
I
forcing their
believe
way?
that there is, but I don't know who did it or why. And I'll be honest with you, at this point, from what we're discovering,
Yeah.
I believe there was an insurrection, but I believe it was a Fedsurrection. I believe the Feds were involved. We have identified over 200 federal agents that were there that were provocateurs. So the problem is, I don't care, and we actually have police officers said they were dressed up as Antifa within the crowd. We have them actually saying that on video. So there's a lot that's about to come out. There's a lot of discovery that needs to happen. So in my case, so I did kind of a unique thing. I asked my judge to bring in very high officials from the NSA, the Department of Defense, and everything else, because I've worked around classified stuff. I've done things like that for the Defense Department. So I asked to have discovery. And they denied me my discovery and denied me my witnesses, because the bottom line is they're trying to put me into a conspiracy of some sort. Well, if there's a conspiracy, let's find out. Let's bring in the intelligence agencies that have that information. Let's put a skiff in place, and let's bring this information forward, because as long as there's an ongoing investigation, obviously the prosecution can't see it, but the judge can be put aside and given the reasonable evidence that this is occurring, and I can be exonerated very easily by that information. But my judge has ruled in my case, and this is actually a good thing. It's sometimes I do things because I do it out of principle. Sometimes it's out of sheer luck, and I put them in a position where they have to operate within what they call the straight and narrow. So in this particular situation, the judge has basically said, because I can't have that, the prosecution can't bring any evidence that has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Well, this is actually good in that situation, because they don't have anything on me, nothing.
You
I
can't
mean,
question, if you don't bring a witness, the other side has the right to question.
But I think we'll circle back around at some
Yeah.
point, because I believe what's going to happen is they're going to try to inject that information in there. So it's either going to have to be removed, or we're going to circle back to my witnesses, and we're going to have them. And Trump is one of the people on the witness list, and we're going to go into discovery on that. We're going to find out. So I'll have them all subpoenaed, if that's what it takes. I mean, the truth has got to come out. That's what people need to know. I mean, because the country is so divided right now. We're almost in the midst of a civil war. People don't realize it.
Yeah.
I'm the guy holding them back, saying, no, there's a plan in place. You know, we got to expose the fraud.
Yeah.
You can't go in there. I said, you don't even know who your enemy is. What are you going to do? Kill your neighbor because he disagrees with you? He's a good individual. He's just lost. He don't understand what's really happening. If he knew the truth, he would understand where we're coming from.
People are, I mean, obviously you have it. Why did you go to the Capitol that day? Why did you go from did you hear the president speak? Were you, and I say
I
president?
did. So there was
Trump
and
was
it's-
president
and it's
at the
actually in
time.
my discovery. It's pretty good. There was Stop the Steal rally came out.
Yeah.
And I felt I was led to be there, and everyone else that was pretty much with us, maybe only one other person has any regrets, but everyone else felt that they were led to go there too. You know what I'm saying?
And you
none
went
of them
to,
regret
what
it.
was your purpose of going to the Capitol?
To make our voice heard, because we knew that we had a feeling that they would steal the election. Didn't know that for sure. I always said that Pence would betray Trump. Everyone was mad at me because a lot of people like Pence, and I said, he's going to betray Trump. You watch. Sure enough, he did. And then people said, well, he didn't have the right to look into the election and stuff, which he did. The reason why we know that's because they changed the law, so now a vice president can't do it. So if he didn't have the right, why change the law? I mean, Trump even brought that up. So it's just a matter of people playing the game. And then what I saw, and so what happened, so I'm going to circle back to when I got back to the residence. So we left there about 4 o'clock at the Capitol, and I heard somebody announce this, that Trump said, go home peacefully, and I mean, so we left. So we headed back to our apartment. I get back there, and all of a sudden, we getting calls from people, and I go, what, and they said, what's going on at the Capitol? What's happening? I said, what do you mean? We just left there. And so I turned the news on in D.C. It looked like the Capitol was on fire. There's clouds everywhere. I don't know what it was, a tear gas or what. It just looked like the place was burned down. There's bombs going off. That's kind of the big thing, how it looked on TV when I was watching. I'm like, what? I couldn't even figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, we were there. I didn't see any of that. Was there violence in other places? Probably. I didn't see it. And that's when I started seeing the windows broken out and all that. I didn't see any of that occur. I saw nothing get broken from where I was. I never see anyone broke through a police line or anything of that nature from my standpoint, from where I was at the Capitol. All that stuff I saw afterwards on TV and trying to piece the pieces together what really occurred. So we were supposed to fly back that morning. We were supposed to leave early, and they had a curfew, so we couldn't leave. So we had to stay an extra few days. So the very next day I went to the Capitol and I started taking pictures, and I'll give you pictures of what I took. And the National Guard was putting up fences, and we saw this thing on TV, and somebody died. Babbitt was shot, and Ashley Babbitt, is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ashley Babbitt was shot, and all that. So we decided to go back and see, and this was like early in the morning. I don't know if it's between 8 or 9. It might even be 10. I don't know. But we were taking pictures and talking to the guards that were there, National Guard. I said, what happened? I mean, they said people are killed. Nobody knew what was going on. We went around the whole building. Nothing's taped off. It's not like it's a crime scene. And we're like, what did we just watch on TV? I go back there, just a normal day in D.C., other than the fact that they were putting some fencing up. We went around the whole thing. And so then I did an interview with a guy, and it was pretty interesting. And so I'm going to circle back just before I got to D.C. We were on an airplane, and I was on HBO, I was basically on every video you could think of. I don't know why my face showed up, but it did. Maybe because I'm taller than everyone else and my head stuck up, I don't know. But we were on a plane where somebody put Trump 2024 or something like that on the top of the plane. And we're all going, Trump, 2024. There was only one guy on the plane that wasn't a Trump supporter, and I think he was a Black Lives Matter guy or something like that. He threatened to kill all of us. And then everyone was like ready to press charge. He's the only one on the plane. He threatened every one of us. I'm like, what the heck? And so we all followed him out, and we were, going through the airport. He's making all these threats to us, and it was just the craziest thing. So anyhow, after the very next day, after January 6th, I did an interview with what they call a ninja reporter. And I basically told my story, what happened before I got to the Capitol, and then he wanted to start recording. Then I started telling him what I believe occurred based upon videos that I saw. So there's two different aspects there, and that's when I started talking about people breaking through police lines and all that. Not that I saw that personally, because the first part of it I did not see it. And the other part is when I did see it on the videos and stuff that was coming out.
You did mention something about some people in helmets. They had you say come behind them and go and follow them in. You said something.
No, I got behind them because they waved me in. There's a guy going like this.
Is it was somebody breaking through a line or something?
They were pushing against the guards.
They were pushing against the guards.
Yeah. And there was a bunch of them.
Do you think these could have been, there were a lot of guys in tack gear. I saw in videos.
I did too. And my first
Did you have tack on? Were you wearing any kind of?
No, I just had I had a blue coat just like this with a backpack.
Okay.
It had my name on it, said Hank,
Okay.
And it's not like I hid that I was there. I put it on Facebook as soon as I got back.
Sure.
I told everyone. It's not like I had no idea I'd even be arrested for.
Were you intending to do damage? Were you intending to physically stop congressmen from certifying the election?
No, and I wouldn't do that, because the thing is they have the right to do what they do. When you basically have to catch someone, whether it's a lie or whatever, you got to let them do the deed. You know what I'm saying? So why would I interfere with them committing treason when you got to allow them to do it? I can accuse them of it, but until they actually do the deed, it has to happen. Okay. Did we know that there was a possibility they would do it? Have they done things like this before throughout history? Of course they have. It wasn't so monumental that people would be able to see it like in Trump's case. You got Biden, you can't even get a handful of people to show up at his rally, and Trump can fill the biggest auditorium you've ever seen. Right. I think someone in a basement can do that. And the other thing is too, I really believe that, and here's the other thing, I think the facts will come out, I don't even believe Joe Biden is Joe Biden. I believe those are actors playing the part of him. Mm-hmm. So I think at some point people are going to discover this whole thing is a game. We're being manipulated in a really big way. And I feel like we're going to have a Scooby-Doo moment at some point where we pull the mask back and find out who's really manipulating us. It's just a horrible thing. And it's hard for people to go down that rabbit hole, it's not uncommon for, people in high places to have body doubles for protection and everything else. Yeah. But we're seeing something that's just very peculiar.
It's been done in the past, right?
Right, and we need to start watching. I tell people, you find out a person is, look at the ear shape, look at the ear, look at the face, look at the distance the eyes between the nose. Same thing we use for facial recognition.
Right.
These aren't the same people.
Are you, again, this is a serious thing, and like you said, it's hard to convince people, like you said, to follow you down the rabbit hole, but you're facing federal charges. You got a hearing on the 5th, I believe you said?
Correct.
Are you scared? I
No,
mean,
no,
regardless of whether you think it's true or not,
Well,
you could be convicted.
Don't care.
You don't?
Don't care at all. No fear whatsoever. I feel like this is the moment where David faces Goliath. I don't care. Just don't. And I feel like, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they said, we will not bow the knee to Baal. But even, and God can rescue us, but even if God does not, we're still not going to bow the knee to Baal.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this is going to turn out, nor do I care. All I care about is I'm a man of principles. I live by those principles. And if this is a sword I die on, so be it. I don't care. I really don't care. I want the truth to come out. And I know history will reflect on that when it does come out, and it'll be pretty soon.
Was there what drove you to go to the Capitol, to enter it, to do that? What in the end, why were you there? Did you feel you were motivated? Did anyone push you to go there? Why did you go in that?
No, I was actually the one that felt led to go to D.C. because Trump put that out there, or somebody did, and the Trump administration stopped the steal. We obviously at that point did not know Trump was even going to speak that day. So we were booking tickets and getting ready, and I was putting the information out there. So no, I just felt like I was led to be there. And I was also led to, obviously we had a Trump rally here in Montana, didn't know about it, missed it. I did fly down to a Trump rally, only one I was at, and that was down in Texas. So.
Right.
And then when I was down there, that was an interesting thing. We went into the Trump rally. We had to leave all our stuff outside. They wouldn't let us take it in, so we had it all piled up.
Huh.
And then city people came in before we came back out, threw all our stuff away.
Whoa.
And we were told to leave it there.
Wow.
So I mean, it's just weird things that happen
That's
all
terrible,
the time.
yeah.
And then I noticed that a lot of the other Trump rallies, that the Proud Boys and everything, they were showing up because we knew Antifa was creating problems. We knew people were getting assaulted at these things. And I can't say the Proud Boys did good or bad things, but they were actually there to try to protect it. I mean, that's the message we were getting. You know what I'm saying? So we
Sure.
get the problems.
One thing, Trump said, I think in his speech said, go down to the Capitol. I think he said, go there peacefully, do it. He said he'd stand with you. From what we understand, he wasn't actually there with you guys. He watched it.
I believe there's more. I'm in Discovery right now.
Right.
So there was a helicopter flying above us that was monitoring the whole time. None of it in Discovery is there. I've asked, because that's a secured airspace. Who was in that helicopter? Who got permission to be that close, hovering above us? I'm asking for that right now from the prosecution. It hasn't been given. So maybe Trump was there. Maybe they were filming the whole thing, what was going on. But see, when you have a bird's eye view, you kind of can tell how things happen. Right now we got pictures from this vantage point, that, and it's hard to put the timeline together without sequencing everything. But a bird's eye view is going to tell a lot more information.
Now, at
I'm
the
asking
time,
for that.
Trump was president still at that time. If you're looking at the regular, this was before the election was certified. Do you think, and a lot of people say that, believe that Trump was responsible for this invasion, attack, whatever, insurrection on the White House, on Congress? Do you think Trump was directing that incident on January 6th?
How can you be responsible for telling us to go there peacefully? Does he want us to hold them accountable? Does he want us to make sure our voice is heard and that our vote counts? Absolutely he does, but that would be expected out of anyone. So to try to put Trump in this giant conspiracy, no. I believe there's probably January 6ers that are probably getting huge plea deals that they can roll over against Trump, use them as witnesses against him, really how they've prosecuted people is based upon false witness. We got police officers that are perjuring themselves right now, false witness. But you got to understand, I believe D.C. is a honey trap, or a honeypot. Basically, they get people in compromising situations. So if you're a congressman, you went there, they could slip something in your drink, they get you in a compromised situation, they invite you to one of their parties. This is all coming out now. We're actually, and I just put on my Facebook page, and if anyone wants to go on my Facebook, they can see it. you're going to start seeing pretty much, every few days now, we're going to start releasing information from undercover where they're actually manipulating people and trying to get them to either step down from office or not run or whatever and pay them huge sums of money. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's going to be coming out. We're going to expose what Congress has been doing for a long time. And so the thing is it doesn't matter who wins an election, whether it's Republican or Democrat. It really depends who the people they have that they can control. If they got bad stuff on you, well, they'll want you to run because they know they can use it to manipulate your vote. You got good Republicans out there, at least we think we're good Republicans, and all of a sudden they'll vote a different way. They were found in a compromised situation. They get a little note, you're going to vote this way or we're going to expose you. So it really wouldn't matter who got into office as long as you have a compromised group of people. You're going to basically be able to pull the strings and enslave the American people. And the American people think, well, man, I'm just tired of voting for Republican. I'm tired of voting for Democrat. You vote for a third party, you don't have a voice either. And basically they maintain control because we haven't recognized the true enemy and what's going on. And I believe once the truth comes out, 98% of Congress will fall.
Wow. I mean, it's a dark thing. I mean, for somebody that has your belief, it sounds like the whole system is just corrupt from top to bottom.
Well, it is, and then that's why until you expose it and you allow them to create this fraud, which has been going on for a long time, then at that point we can bring military force in and deal with these people. People will know why they're being arrested. They'll know why they'll be tried. I don't believe anyone, unlike us, that we're basically guilty and we have to prove our innocence. I believe everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and I believe even when we bring down these people in Congress, they will have their time before a war tribunal. They will go to a court. They will face their accusers, and they'll answer for their crimes. I don't believe in just, dragging them out and destroying them, even though I said, we're going to tar and feather them. I mean, it reminds me of that movie, Anywhere, Which Way But Loose, when the guys are, covered them with tar and feather, the motorcycle gang. But that's the way people are feeling. That's the way people are. They're really dissatisfied with everyone in Congress. Matter of fact, people don't even watch the news anymore because they're tired of the news. It's all negative information. But I can tell you, in the end, we win. It's just all about exposure. It's not if Trump's going to come back. I believe Trump still controls the football. I believe Biden doesn't have the football. I believe this whole thing's a military effort from top to bottom, and they're just allowing things to play out so people see it. We're in what we call the show me state. People, or we refer to it in the military as game theory. We can't tell you the truth. You wouldn't believe it. We have to show you. And we have a lot of people that serve in our military proudly, and as a country, I don't believe we fought a legitimate war yet. I believe it was all set up by bankers and politicians to make money. And like I say, I would be the first to volunteer. You wouldn't have to pay me to defend my homeland. I mean, and that's where we all need to be. We need to be doing what's right. And I believe we've been basically, and I believe most countries of the world have really good people in them, I don't believe the Chinese people are horrible people. I don't believe the Russian people are horrible people. I believe it's very bad people at the top that are controlling all of us. And I believe it's a worldwide problem. And I believe that's why Q was so important. It was basically showing the world that we're all being manipulated by the same enemy in all the countries. And if Trump were to just take the U.S. back and didn't expose this fraud and we didn't collapse the financial system, which is what's coming, it has to collapse because our true enemy is the Federal Reserve. We need to basically go back to sound money where it's gold and silver backed by that. So Congress can't meet tomorrow, pass laws, pick our pockets, their dollars worth less. They're stealing from you. They're just a legal way they're getting around it at the moment. So we need to go back to sound money. Things wouldn't cost as much as it is right now. Our taxes wouldn't be so high, and then we should be able to own our properties outright and not have to pay tax on. We should. Obviously there'll be some tax, like a sales tax on new goods and stuff, because we got to fund a little bit of the government. But what happens when you find out that 95% of all the money going to government doesn't go to help us? That's really where the problem lies.
Sure.
And I don't feel like and I'm not against paying any tax, and I'm not against paying any money to government. I just want it to be used responsibly. I think every American feels the same way.
Well, I think is not, I think more people agree with that than anything else we said. I'm sure a lot of people agree. Government's not very responsible with money, and there's no doubt about that. Wow. what's next for you? You have a here. Do you mind telling what's coming up next? You've got a hearing. What basically do you have your legal situation?
So
if you want to share.
I'm just the hearing that I have coming up is basically going to be, showing the evidence that I was the one assaulted. I'm the one that's the damaged party, not the other way around. They have nothing on me, nothing. I didn't even know how they can even take this to court.
How confident are you that this will turn out good for you, or do you think it's?
I have a presidential pardon coming.
That.
Everyone from January 6th has a presidential pardon coming. And the bottom line, General Flynn is a good example. He's on the front of my building, 3-star general, People's General. We'll see, but I think it's possible he will be Trump's vice president pretty quick when he returns back to office. But he's leading by example too. I swore the oath to protect this country because of General Flynn. I think I mentioned that already. But General Flynn is suing the government for $50 million. Remember, Trump gave him an innocent man's pardon? And I believe when this is all said and done, all of us that have been beaten down and all that, and it's, like Trump says, read the book, The Art of War. The spoils of war go to the patriots that, defend this country. Not that we're doing it for that reason. It has nothing to do with that. We do it because it's a principle thing, but now that things have played out, we're starting to understand the bigger picture, and we're learning as we go along. Yeah.
And you're doing, like I said, bench trial.
Yes.
You're gonna.
So there's two people that have basically been acquitted, and both of them are done for bench trials. The reason why a bench trial is important, I believe, a bench trial versus a jury trial. So a jury trial is what they did to Jesus and Barabbas. So we released Jesus to release Barabbas. And so judgment fell on God's people because they crucified Jesus and released Barabbas. So why am I going to put people who don't understand the facts in harm's way? Why am I going to put judgment on us as individuals when we believe the news and the narrative that's been put out? And if the judge recommends blah, 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 the jury a lot of times goes along with it. Now, I'm putting the full burden of proof on the judge. If the judge fails to do what's right and I present my evidence, I can have that judge removed. And potentially, if it raises to the level of treason, I can have him for a war tribunal. So I'm approaching it a different way.
I got you. Well, I mean, best of luck to you, because I mean, and again, it just doesn't sound like you're ready to take the consequences. And I guess you believe, again, you'll be pardoned anyway if Trump gets.
Well, if you believe Trump. I mean, that's what it boils down to. You got to believe Trump if that's what you believe. Do you believe him or you believe everyone else?
And you believe Trump?
I believe Trump. Yeah.
All right.
And even if he doesn't come through, I did what I know responsible anyways, and I did it for the right reasons. So I'm good with my conscience. Let's put it that way.
Well, thank you. Hey, they probably do not want you talking, or probably don't want you to speak.
Every attorney has said that.
Yeah.
You know what I told him?
What do you tell? Yeah.
I told him I do not care.
Okay.
We're going to do it my way.
All right. Well, hey, that's cool.
I mean, look at the people that obviously went before attorneys and look at how the outcome has been for them. And they listen to them.
Right.
I always say, when you're in the limelight, stay in the limelight. As much as I hate the limelight, I believe it's important.
You've come into this, and I mean, it's not, you don't regret it. You don't seem to be afraid or have any fear of, I mean, regardless of whether you think you're right, the law, I mean, they may find you guilty, and you're willing to accept it until, hopefully, I mean,
until the truth finally comes out.
Wow.
But I believe it's going to, but we'll see what happens.
You think it'll even happen like before?
I can't say when. I have no way to know timing. A lot of us were believing it would happen sooner than it did. And we're also dealing with, corrupt individuals. And Trump, like he said, he never telegraphed to the enemy when you're going to do something. So part of the whole Q movement has been, well, this is the next big event, next big event. We want people to keep the eye on the prize of the next thing that's going to happen. It may not be the big event, but it may be the next clue. It just shows there's an operation in play.
Okay.
So I believe Trump is part of Q. I believe if you look at the Q post where it says +++, that's Trump speaking.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
And there's a reason for that, but I would have to go into more detail. To ask some of them questions.
So you literally you've requested Trump to be on the stand.
Well, I did to my attorney. He never mentioned it to the judge because he's never subpoenaed people like this. He was scared to death. I'm not. And I told my attorney, I said, you're not gonna know what questions to ask him. I said, I'm gonna cross-examine him myself. There's a reason for that. Because I believe there's no attorney-client privilege. It happened to Rudy Giuliani and other people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna know and they're